I never loved him, my wife said while plotting with her lover, but I set a cruel plan in motion that would tear apart their world and leave them with nothing but regret. This is the second part of story I posted already. First part, this story. You check it first for better experience. Now back to the story. Enjoy this one. In some ways the chaos from the virus was a good thing, giving Allison time to focus on studying for her GEDs. She took the tests online in mid-April and passed with great scores. With a lot of support from Justine, Jim and me, she applied to start at the local technical college in the fall, planning to transfer to the College of Charleston for pre-med the following year. At the same time, Jennifer and Marie-Sophie used their time during lockdown to improve their machine learning project. They brought on some talented coders who were looking for work, and their company started to grow rapidly. As an advisor, I soon found myself spending more time helping them than I did on all of the other parts of RG Innovations together. Meanwhile, I continued to care for Lexi, who began to thrive. It was no surprise that living in a stable home with loving adults along with a happy, stress-free mom helped her a lot. She even started making new friends at daycare before everything shut down. Just when it seemed like things were getting better, I received a call from Molly that changed everything. With all of her classes online, Molly decided to study from home and was living in our old house with her mom. When she called me late one Friday night, I worried something was wrong. Through tears, she told me that my mother, who lived in an apartment attached to their house, had gotten sick and was in the hospital needing help to breathe. They didn't think she would recover. Molly explained that my mother had been careless about the virus, not wearing a mask or keeping her distance, and had gone on with her life as if nothing had changed. By mid-May, my mother was unwell, but insisted it was just a bad flu. A week later, she was in the hospital, and soon after, she was moved to the intensive care unit. Before they put her on life support, my mother asked to see me. Molly wanted to know if I was coming home to make things right with my mother and possibly say goodbye. I told her I was already home, and that the people here needed me just as much, if not more, than my mother. Still, I said I would think about coming to Boise if that was what Molly wanted. Dad, I'm really scared. Nothing feels normal anymore. Mom is really sick. Sandra is acting distant and spends all her time with Braden and his family. Now Grandma is also unwell. I know she wasn't always easy, but I love her, and I love you too. I miss you a lot. Please come home even just for a little while. For me, I promised I would get there as fast as I could and started making plans. Allison took the news well, although I could see she was worried. I reassured her that I would return soon and wouldn't be leaving her and Lexi alone. Jim and Justine were understanding and promised to help take care of them while I was gone. Finding a flight to Boise was challenging. Because of the virus, many airlines were flying fewer planes. It took me almost 48 hours to finally wait for Molly at the Boise airport. Even before the plane landed, I felt tense, as if I was facing something difficult. By the time I was in the terminal, my heart was racing, and I was starting to feel anxious. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I answered and heard Lexi's voice. "Hi Pop, I miss you." "Hey Angel, how are you? Is everyone taking care of you? I miss you a lot. Sebastian misses you too. He's giving me kisses," she said, giggling. Then the phone was passed to Allison. "Hi Richard, we wanted to check in and see if you're okay. I hope you aren't too tired from your trip." "I'm good. It's strange though. Coming to this airport used to feel like coming home. When I saw the Boise River and the mountains I would relax. Now I'm more nervous than ever." "You'll be fine, Richard. You can spend time with Molly and maybe see some old friends. It will be hard to see your mom, but you'll get through it. If you don't go, you might regret it later. I know you're right, but I still don't like it. Give Lexi a big hug from me and give Sebastian a scratch behind the ears. I miss you both. We miss you too. Take care." Less than half an hour later, Molly picked me up from the airport. Kelly offered for me to stay with them at our old home, but I politely said no. I didn't want to see her while I was in town, so I booked a room at the Grove Hotel, the best hotel in Boise. Fortunately, hotels wanted guests, so I managed to arrange a long stay. Although I was tired from my trip, I chose to visit my mom before resting. I couldn't enter her room since only medical staff and protective gear were allowed inside. However, I could see her through a window for a bit. Mostly her eyes were shut, but they opened for a few moments just before I left. We looked at each other until she drifted back to sleep. I felt troubled as I watched her. My mother had raised me, and I was supposed to honor her. But she had also made choices that affected our family. As I looked through the small window, I wondered how she felt about my leaving. Did she resent that I had gone without saying goodbye? Did she wish for something more? Did she feel any regret for the past? I truly had no answers. Lost in thought on my way back to the hotel, I almost missed a figure standing outside the lobby doors. I hadn't seen Sandra in nearly a year, but I thought about her almost every day. She wasn't supposed to be in the hotel lobby, so she waited for me outside in the cold. Dressed in jeans and a sweater, she looked at me with uncertainty. I took a deep breath and walked toward her, curious about why she was at my hotel so late. "Hi, Daddy, can we talk?" When I chose to return to Boise, I knew I might run into Sandra. I tried to prepare myself for her to be distant or act like I hadn't cared for her. I tried to toughen myself up to handle whatever she might say. However, I wasn't ready to see her looking so upset. My first instinct was to comfort her, but I hesitated, remembering she didn't view me the same way anymore. I was just her father, and I didn't fully grasp my new place in her life. "Hi Sandra, how are you?" She seemed uneasy and couldn't meet my gaze. "I'm okay, Daddy. How about you?" "Oh, I'm doing all right, I guess, all things considered. Better than I was last year. What brings you here?" "Not that I'm not glad to see you, but I know you feel you have a father in your life and I'm not him. So why the late night visit? I need your advice." There it was. I expected she might need help, but I thought it would be financial. "Okay. Let's take a walk, and you can tell me more." It was cooler than usual as we began walking, separated by both physical distance and emotional barriers that felt very clear. I never should have agreed to come back to Boise. "Do you think you and Mom will ever get back together? Will you forgive her?" I was surprised by the question. It felt odd, especially since Sandra and I hadn't talked in almost a year. And even before that, things had been strained. I thought carefully before I answered. "Forgiveness? Yes. I think I can forgive your mom. I mostly have already. It's not her fault for marrying someone she didn't love. She deserves to be happy like everyone else." Now that I have had time to think, I realize I might also share some blame. Maybe I missed signs that she was unhappy because I loved her so much. "Will we get back together?" "I don't think that will happen, Sandra. It's painful to understand that the people you love don't always feel the same way. I have struggled with the fact that I wasn't enough for her. But Mom loves you, Dad. That other guy didn't mean anything. She really misses you and feels sad all the time. Here's the thing. I can believe that the other person didn't mean much to her, but he did mean a lot to me. He meant that my wedding vows, which I held dear, were broken. He meant that the life I built with your mother felt untrue. He meant that my dreams for our future together were gone. He also meant that some people I thought were my friends, who knew what was happening and didn't say anything, weren't real friends. Most importantly, he affected you and Molly. He meant that you might lose respect for me and distance yourself. He led Molly to stop talking to me. While he didn't mean anything to your mother, he meant everything to me. She made a mistake, Daddy, and she's sorry. Are you going to hold that against her forever?" Your mother didn't just make one mistake, Sandra. She made several choices over time to be with someone else. She chose to look for love and happiness with him instead of with me. I don't think she regrets what she did. She's just sorry about the effects it had. Do you know the difference between regret and remorse? Regret is when you feel sad about how something turned out. I messed up and my partner left. I didn't want them to go, and that makes me sad. Regret is mostly about oneself. Remorse is different. It's a feeling that comes from realizing your choices have hurt others. To feel remorse, you need to understand how your actions have affected people. You must be able to think about how they feel. I haven't seen any signs that your mother feels remorse for what her choices have done to me. She feels bad about her choices because they led to some tough outcomes. And from what you're telling me, she isn't liking those outcomes at all. I want to be clear. I'm not punishing your mother. I'm just making my own choice. My choice affects her. During our marriage, I always put her needs first even before mine, and those of you and Molly. Now I'm simply changing what I focus on. I won't keep putting my well-being aside for your mother, but I'd probably still do that for you and Molly if you needed help. Is that what you wanted to talk about? How unhappy your mom has been? Because to be honest, I still care for Kelly. I think I always will, but there's nothing I can do to change how she feels about me or to make her happier. I can't make her love me, and I can't stay with someone who doesn't feel the same way. No, Daddy, that's not it. I made some mistakes or choices, really bad ones, and I'm not sure what to do. What kinds of choices did you make? What happened because of them? I listened to Mommy and Grandma. For the past few years, whenever Harrison was away for work, I sometimes went out to have fun just for that night and never with anyone we knew. It didn't mean anything. I still love Harrison a lot. Grandma said strong men know that women have needs too. But you didn't get what Mommy did, you just left. Now I understood what this was about. Harrison was Sandra's boyfriend of 5 years, and everyone thought they would get engaged soon. I had met him several times, and he seemed like a great guy. Smart, funny, and good-looking. He had stolen Sandra's heart in her last year of high school, and they had been together ever since. He didn't seem like the kind of person who would accept dishonesty in a relationship. Then last week, Harrison found out that his best friend had been unfaithful to his fiancée, and he ended their friendship immediately. His friend begged him to stay friends. I even asked him to think it over, but he was so angry, Daddy. He said trust and loyalty are everything to him. And how can he trust someone again after finding out they were disloyal to someone they should care for deeply? I'm scared, Daddy. What if he finds out what I did? What if he decides to end things with me too? When you say you had some fun, did you spend time with other men? When she couldn't look me in the eye, I knew the answer. I felt really disappointed. I had failed as a father. I didn't see how Kelly and my mother were influencing their values, and now Sandra was suffering because of my blindness. But Sandra was grown up enough to be responsible for her own choices. What should I do, Daddy? How can I make this right? Does he know? Have you talked to him about what happened? No. I haven't told him. I can't. What if he doesn't understand? What if he leaves me? I could sense a hint of fear in her voice. I thought that fear was probably justified. What did Braden say when you asked for help? I realized that I might not be the one she wanted to turn to for advice anymore. He laughed and told me I needed to be more careful so Harrison never finds out. He said I should stop feeling guilty or I might give myself away. But I'm scared, Daddy. What if he finds out what happens then? As we walked, I took a moment to think. I knew there was little I could do to fix her situation. Boise felt like a small town. Harrison would hear about what she did soon if he didn't already know, and he seemed to have strong feelings about trust. But maybe I could say something to help her learn from this and make better choices in the future. If he finds out, your relationship will change. You said that Harrison can't stand dishonesty, and that is what you are dealing with. I'm sorry that I didn't guide you better as your father. I didn't teach you the values that would help you avoid these decisions, and my mistake will impact you. You could follow Braden's advice and not tell Harrison. You might hope he never finds out, but if you do that you will always worry that someone might say something. Boise is small. What if you see one of those men at a gathering? When Harrison finds out, and he will, how will he feel knowing others knew before him? If you tell him yourself, he will feel hurt. But he will also see that you cared enough to be honest. Don't get me wrong, he may still choose to leave you. That might be inevitable now. But being open will help him understand your feelings. You can't change what challenges are coming. They are already on their way. All you can do is try to manage how to deal with it. Sandra, I have loved you since the first day I held you. I would do anything to keep you safe from what lies ahead. But those challenges are coming, and no one can stop them. My advice is to face the truth and take responsibility for your choices. Sometimes the right choice is the hardest one, but once you tell him, you will know that you did the right thing. You will have shown that even with your past actions, you truly care for him and trust him to make his own choices. It may not feel good at first, but being honest will help you learn and grow. And perhaps there will be a chance for you both to be friends one day. If you don't tell him, and he finds out himself, that chance will be gone forever. By this time, we were back at the hotel. I took her hands and made her look at me. Sandra, I care about you, and I believe you will make the right choice. Can I have a hug, Daddy? Of course, sweetie. You can have one. That night, I stayed up late thinking and drawing. I sketched my mother in her hospital bed, her face tired with lines and machines around her. I struggled to get her eyes right. I couldn't show her eyes truly without knowing what she was thinking. I sat quietly for a while remembering my mother, both the good and the bad. Finally, I decided to draw her eyes the way I wished they had been, filled with love and pride in me. And maybe I wasn't too far off in the end. My mother held on for another week before the illness took her. I don't know if she knew I was there at the end. I hope that as her time came, she felt something about how her actions affected our family, but I will never know. She passed quietly. Molly and Sandra took her death very hard. They had always known my mother as a stable presence in their lives, and even with her flaws she had cared for them deeply. While they grieved, I took care of all the tasks that come with losing someone you love. The funeral was online with only me, Kelly, and the girls attending in person. I saw that Stephen Hollister's family joined through video. I knew that Stephen had passed away months earlier, and I hoped they were at peace. I still felt guilty for not telling them about what he had done, but his actions had already affected enough good people without disturbing his family's peace too. Kelly supported the girls and mourned my mother as well. In the years since I had left, she had lost a lot of weight. Even with her makeup, I could see the tiredness in her eyes that showed she had long days and sleepless nights. I'd like to say I felt happy or satisfied to see her that way, but instead, I just felt deep sadness. For some, love for an ex-partner fades away when betrayal occurs. But for me, my love for Kelly was still strong. It was just hidden under deep sorrow. It seemed natural that we would talk at the funeral. It's hard to avoid conversation when there are only 5 of us in the room. "Hi Richard, thank you for coming and taking care of things. It means a lot to the girls and to me." "You're welcome." It felt good to be there with them to offer support as they mourned. "They are lucky to have you," Kelly said. "Yeah. I guess," I replied, trying not to sound bitter, but it slipped out. "That's not what I meant." Kelly started, then changed the topic. "Where will she be laid to rest?" "Years ago, my parents bought side-by-side plots at the cemetery behind my dad's family church, but after he passed, they wouldn't let him be buried there. So he is resting outside the cemetery in a spot that was not blessed. That decision is why I left the church for good. He devoted his life to it, but because of his struggles and my mother, they denied him a proper farewell." "I never knew that, Richard," Kelly said quietly. "Yeah, I don't think you did. So Mom will be alone in her plot. Maybe her spirit will find some peace watching over the cemetery and judging my father forever. But at least it will give the girls a place to remember her. I just wish they had some memories of my dad too. He was a wonderful man." "Will you go to her grave?" Kelly asked. "I don't think so. She spent the last 25 years making me believe that Dad left us when he passed away. She was very angry with him and passed that anger on to me. No, when I go to the cemetery, I will be visiting him. I hope he can forgive me." I stayed a few more days after the funeral to handle my mother's belongings. She had very little left, having used most of her money to support herself after I had to distance myself from her. But the girls and I spent 2 afternoons together cleaning out her apartment. Although it was a sad task, it felt nice to be with them. It almost felt like we were a family again. One of the last areas we cleaned was the nightstand next to her bed. In the top drawer, we found a small wooden box with a silver clasp. It was worn at the top, showing signs of many years of use. Inside, we found my mother's engagement ring and her and my father's wedding bands. There was also an old pocket watch that my father had carried every day. It was a bit out of place even in his younger years, but he said it reminded him of his grandfather and brought him happiness. Whenever he felt unsure about what to do, looking at that watch reminded him to act in a way that would make his grandfather proud. Beneath the rings and watch was a bundle of old letters carefully kept together with a light blue ribbon. They were letters from my father to my mother while he served in the army. They were not long, but they were surprisingly emotional and at times almost poetic. The edges of the letters were frayed from being read many times. I chose to keep the watch as a reminder of my father, while Molly took the letters, saying she would put them in a scrapbook for the family. Sandra kept the wedding bands and engagement ring, and I thought she might want to use them someday. As we finished cleaning for the day, someone knocked on the door. When I opened it, a delivery person handed me 2 bags of takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant. I was surprised that the girls remembered how much I liked that place, since it had been years since we last ate there. Kelly wasn't the biggest fan, so I had stopped ordering it when the girls were younger. As we laid the food out on the kitchen counter, I thanked the girls, but they said they hadn't ordered it. With some uncertainty, I walked over to the main house and rang the doorbell. Kelly answered the door in a simple pair of jeans and a blue t-shirt that looked comfortable. "Thank you for getting dinner for us." "I really appreciate it," I said. "It was the least I could do," she replied with a shy smile. "Would you like to join us?" I asked, not sure if I wanted her to say yes or no. She seemed excited at first, but then paused and said, "No. You should spend time with the girls. I can find something for myself." "All right. Thank you. I'm flying back to Charleston tomorrow morning, so this will be my last time with them for a while. Thank you for taking care of my mother after I left. It wasn't fair for you to leave her with me and the girls," she said. "Richard, many things weren't fair back then, and leaving your mom with me is just one of those things. I wish for a lot of things, but mainly, I hope you have a safe flight home and that you are happy." Being back in Charleston felt good. During the drive from the airport, I thought about how quickly my sense of home had changed. Even though I grew up and raised my family in Boise, Charleston now felt like home to me. I looked forward to seeing Allison and Lexi, even though I talked to them almost every night while I was away. Allison felt like an adopted daughter to me, and I loved Lexi as if she were my own. Jim and Justine, my friends who welcomed us when we first arrived in Charleston, kept inviting us to stay in their nanny suite, a large 3-bedroom apartment on the ground floor of their house on Sullivan's Island, a lovely area of Charleston by the Atlantic coast. I had suggested more than once that I could move out either to give Allison and Lexi more room, or to find a new place for the 3 of us, but Jim and Justine did not want that. Honestly, if it was just Allison and me, I think they would have been okay with us going. But Justine really liked Lexi, and did not want to miss their time together at the beach. I also enjoyed living with Jim and Justine. Over the past year, the 5 of us had come to feel like a family. My younger daughter, Molly, visited whenever she could. She was in college in Seattle, and getting to Charleston took over 5 hours. Even with the distance, she had become close with Allison. They texted a lot, and Molly video called Lexi at least once a week to share stories from preschool. My older daughter, Sandra, was more distant than I wished. After she started reconnecting with her biological father, Braden, she had pulled away from me and my ex-wife, Kelly. I still loved her, but she often avoided difficult feelings, so it was hard for her to stay in touch after the divorce. I would get the occasional text or email from her, but that was it. I missed her, but I didn't know how to bring us closer again. As spring turned to summer, rules about meeting in person were getting easier. During one of our weekend walks, my friend Hallie suggested we go out somewhere. She was a pediatric surgeon who I had met during the pandemic, so most of our time together had been at a distance. "So what do you think, Richard? Were you planning to ask a girl out, or are we just dog-walking friends?" Thinking about it, I realized I like the idea of going on a real date. "I was thinking of picking you up at 6 on Saturday for dinner, if that's okay with you." Oh, a man with a plan. I'm excited. Once we got back home, I sat down with Allison to ask for her thoughts on my date. "It looks like I'm going on my first date ever on Saturday, and I have no idea what to do. I'm worried I'll mess it up." "I'm not exactly a dating expert either," Allison said with a laugh. "I haven't been on any dates, and the boys aren't exactly rushing to date a single mom starting college. But I'll do some online research and see what I can find." Later that evening, I got a call from Molly in Seattle. She spent over an hour asking me questions about Holly and the date. Over the next week, Allison and Molly teamed up to help me get ready. They helped me choose nice but casual clothes and looked for some inviting restaurants. By the end of the week, I felt ready to try dating again. The date itself was a bit underwhelming. I decided to bring Hallie some flowers even though some experts online said not to. My ex-wife Kelly had always loved flowers, so I thought it might make a nice impression on Hallie. When I picked her up from her condo, she wore a pretty light green dress with flowers, and her blonde hair looked lovely. She thanked me for the flowers and complimented my suit, which made me feel good. After putting the flowers in water, she took my arm, and we walked to the restaurant where I had made a reservation. During dinner, our conversation was relaxed and enjoyable. We had a nice time together. Afterward, we returned to her place, and I felt both excited and a little nervous. Since all my past experiences were with one person, my ex-wife, I worried that might be a problem. However, Hallie was open about her feelings, and I found our time together both joyful and interesting. The only challenge was that Hallie liked to talk openly about our thoughts and feelings, which encouraged me to share as well. After a quiet moment, Hallie suggested we take a short break. She got up to get us each a glass of water. I felt worried that I had messed up the evening and that my inexperience would disappoint Hallie. I started to feel inadequate, so I began picking up my clothes from the floor. By the time she returned, I had put on my socks and shirt. "Are we done already?" Hallie asked, sounding a bit let down. "I'm sorry, I just don't have much experience. I feel bad." Hallie stopped me with a calm voice. "Don't worry, Richard, you wouldn't disappoint me unless you left. Not having experience just means we have plenty to discover together," she said with a laugh. "So you don't really know what you like. Talking is important for good experiences. Life is too short to settle." I paused before answering. "I'm a little embarrassed to say, but I'm not sure what I like." "You're wonderful, and I feel a lot of excitement, but no one ever asked me what I wanted." "But there must have been things your ex-wife did that you liked?" "Not really. She always decided everything and wasn't interested in what I wanted. It felt like the same routine, and honestly, I often thought about work or chores. Hallie smiled and said, "Well, that's about to change. Let's start by figuring out what really makes you happy." As she spoke, she looked at me closely, waiting for my reply. The moment felt intense as we locked eyes, and the silence grew. I struggled to find the right words. I don't know what to say, Hallie. This is all so much to take in." "It's okay," she said gently, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. We sat quietly, the weight of unsaid thoughts and feelings between us. It was an unexpected moment, and the tension slowly faded as we both took deep breaths, trying to understand what had just happened. "Was it enjoyable? Did you like it?" she asked with a playful smile. "It was. Something hard to explain," I replied, still feeling the effects of the moment. "Thank you." I was tired, and it was hard to find the right words. "I'm so glad it was good for you." "Can we do it again sometime?" she asked. "I think it's safe to say you can invite me anytime you like," I said with a light laugh. "That's a start, but it's not enough. You need to share your feelings when you want something. Some nights I might need a bit of encouragement to feel the same way. If we want this to work, you need to ask for what you want," she encouraged. That made me think. I can do that for you. No, Richard, you are going to do that for yourself. You are in charge of your own needs, and I take care of mine. That's how we make this partnership work. Now, speaking of what I need, I want to feel close to you. So let's relax, and I will come closer as we enjoy a special moment together. How does that sound? Oh yes, I can't think of anything better. That first date changed everything for me. It reshaped what I expected from relationships. Even though I was tired the next morning, I felt amazing. I had so much happiness inside me that it felt like I could float. I tried to be quiet when I got home, but Allison was already awake, sipping her morning coffee in the kitchen. She saw my messy clothes and big smile and burst out laughing. "You look like you had a great night." "It was incredible." I would ask for the details, but as your surrogate daughter, I really don't need to know. "Bad choice of words," she said with an eye roll. "But seriously, I'm really happy for you, Richard. I'm glad it went well. Now come get your coffee, and we can sit on the porch and watch the waves." I didn't know when I would hear from Hallie, but I planned to text her later that afternoon to thank her for the evening and tell her how much I enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised when she texted later that morning with a link to an online survey she thought we should take together. When I clicked on the link, it led me to a long list of interests and experiences. After each item, there was a ranking system that went from not interested at all to maybe I could try it to definitely yes. Hallie suggested that we both fill out the survey and then share our answers. We planned to try the activities that we both marked as definitely yes together. Honestly, I felt a bit embarrassed because I didn't understand many items on the survey. So I spent a few nights exploring online to learn more about relationships. As I went through the list, I found that there were only a few things I strongly disliked. I felt awkward about anything public. I wasn't okay with anything unclean, and I didn't want to cause real discomfort to anyone, including myself. Other than that, I was willing to try almost anything at least once. This survey made me think about what I liked as a partner for the first time. I was surprised to realize that what made me happiest was bringing joy to my partner. My own happiness mattered, but I got really excited just thinking about how I could make Hallie happy during our special moments. By fall, Hallie and I had a nice routine. We met 2 or 3 times a week. On Tuesdays, we would go on romantic dates, taking turns to plan and pay. I got to see Charleston in a whole new way with Hallie showing me around. On Friday nights, we would pick random activities from our definitely yes list. Or if we were feeling adventurous, we would try something from the maybe list. Our rule was that we wouldn't try anything if either of us didn't feel comfortable. This made it rare for us to disagree on trying new things. If we both enjoyed an experience or if one of us loved it and the other didn't mind, we would add it to our favorites list. Most weekends when Hallie wasn't working at the hospital, we would take the dogs for walks on the beach or go for long hikes. Allison and Lexi usually joined us. I hoped Hallie and Allison would get along better, and Hallie showed less interest in Lexi than I expected. But I understood since Hallie didn't want children and spent all day working with them. I remembered Hallie's words from when we first became close friends. She wasn't interested in marriage. I didn't mind as we were both enjoying what we had together. I wished Hallie showed more interest in getting to know the important people in my life. She wanted me to be more adventurous in our relationship. But overall, our arrangement worked well. I wasn't in love with Hallie like I had been with Kelly, but I could see my feelings growing. I rarely spent the night at her place, and she didn't stay with me either. It felt a bit awkward for her to be around Allison and Lexi in the mornings. Allison was very supportive of us. She gave me tips on clothes and suggested nice places to visit in town. After her experiences with Thomas and her first boyfriend, she was cautious about dating again. Even after starting college in September, she mostly focused on her studies and rarely socialized. She hadn't been on a date since moving to Charleston. I knew Justine and some other women in the neighborhood tried to set her up with the young men at their club, but it didn't go well. There weren't many young men interested in dating a single mother just starting her college journey. Things might have continued like this for a while, with Allison focused on school and Lexi while I paid attention to work, and Hallie, if I hadn't gotten a call late one Sunday in early November. I hadn't talked much with my daughter Sandra since our conversation in Boise last spring, but we exchanged birthday messages occasionally, so it was surprising to see her calling. "Hey Sandra, it's great to hear from you. What's new in Boise?" I said when I answered the phone. At first there was just silence and soft crying. "Sweetie, what's wrong? Did something happen?" I asked. It's the worst feeling to know someone you care about is hurting, and you can't be there for them. "He's gone, Daddy," I heard through her tears. "What do you mean? Who is gone?" "Harrison is gone. He surprised me with a weekend trip with friends, and when I got back, he took all his things. It's like he was never here. I tried to call him, but his phone isn't working. His family won't answer my calls or texts. He's just gone, Daddy." Harrison was Sandra's boyfriend. When I visited her in spring, she had shared that she made some mistakes in their relationship and was scared to tell him. I suggested she be honest and ask for forgiveness, but I wasn't sure if she did. "Did you talk to him about your decision, sweetie? Is that why he left?" She was quiet for a moment, and I sensed the answer before she spoke. "No, Daddy, I didn't. I couldn't. I didn't want her to lose him." "Oh, sweetie. This was always a risk in not being honest. If he finds out on his own, he might be gone for good." From my experience, it hurts a lot to realize that the person you love doesn't feel the same way. "But I do love him, Dad. He means everything to me. The other guys were just distractions. He is the only one I really love. They were just distractions for you, but they mattered to him." "I'm really sorry, sweetie. But what can I do, Dad? How can I fix this? Please help me." "Some things can't be fixed, sweetie. All you can do is learn and grow from this so you don't make the same mistakes again." "But I don't want to make mistakes. I just want Harrison." Sandra was starting to panic, her breathing quickening. "It's not your choice, sweetie. You chose to be with other men. When Harrison found out, he chose to leave. Is there anyone with you? Someone to help you?" "No, Dad. I'm alone in my apartment. I'm all by myself. What have I done?" Her voice broke as she started to cry. "Did you reach out to your dad?" I asked, feeling uneasy about her biological father, Braden. "He's away. He told me to go out and meet someone that I'd feel better afterward." That advice sounded typical for Braden. Self-centered and careless was his style. "I'll call your mom and ask her to come over. I don't think she'll want to see me, Dad. I said some hurtful things when I moved out." "She must hate me. I promise your mom doesn't hate you. I'll call her and then call you right back." I dialed Kelly's number from memory. I had worked hard to ensure she didn't have my new cell number, but I put that aside for Sandra's sake. She answered after a few rings. "Hello? Who is this?" "Kelly. It's Richard. Harrison left Sandra, and she's really struggling. She needs you with her. She shouldn't be alone." "Oh no, that's terrible. I'm on my way now." I could hear her gathering her things. "Do you know what happened?" "How bad is it?" "She was away for the weekend, and came home to find him gone. He completely cut off contact. She fears he found out things she wanted to keep secret. She's really upset." 2. This is all my fault. "Are you sure she'll want to see me?" "She believes you don't want to see her." "Please, Kelly, go to her. I can't fly out until tomorrow morning and won't be there until late in the evening. She needs you now." "Okay. I'm in the car," she said as I heard the Bluetooth connect. "I'll be there in 15 minutes. Thanks, Kelly. I will call her back and let you know that she is coming." I called Sandra back and stayed on the phone with her until Kelly arrived. I was glad that Kelly could be there for Sandra. Even though Kelly had hurt me, she had always been a good mom to Molly and Sandra. A couple of hours later, Kelly called to say that she had brought Sandra back home, and that Sandra was resting in her old bedroom, having cried herself to sleep. Over the next few days, we started to see the effects of Harrison leaving. Before he departed, he had posted detailed messages on social media, explaining why he had chosen to distance himself from Sandra, sharing proof as well. It seemed that Sandra hadn't been very careful while Harrison was away, and there were pictures of her with different people at social events. Many of Sandra's friends were also friends with Harrison, and they all sided with him. Even her best friend wouldn't return her calls, leaving Sandra very upset. I felt unexpectedly torn about the whole situation. I would never want anyone to feel that hurt, especially not my own daughter. But it was Sandra who had chosen to hurt Harrison, and hadn't been honest about it. Instead, he found out from someone who saw her at one of the events. I thought that Sandra's pain was hard-earned, though it was very difficult for her to bear. Kelly was also very upset. She and my mother had first suggested that it wasn't really a betrayal if you didn't care about the other person. I wasn't sure if Kelly believed that herself, but Sandra had completely bought into it, and was now facing the results. After a week, when Sandra was still struggling, I suggested that she come and stay with us for a while in Charleston. I checked with Allison, who was excited about spending time with my other daughter, and I knew that Sebastian would be happy to see her too. Hallie was sympathetic, but mentioned that she would be very busy with a medical course and conference over the next couple of weeks. I hoped she would at least get to meet Sandra, but she wasn't sure if the timing would work out. Sandra arrived the following weekend looking nothing like the confident young woman I remembered. For the first few minutes things felt a bit awkward since we hadn't seen each other in person since my mother's funeral. I offered her a hug, which she accepted before breaking down in tears. I held her as we waited for her bags. I wasn't sure how long Sandra planned to stay with us, but I had turned our study into a temporary bedroom for her, and made sure she knew she was welcome for as long as she wanted. Sebastian was very happy to see her, and showed her lots of love, making her smile for the first time since she arrived. Allison and Sandra's meeting was a bit different because Sandra noticed how much Allison looked like her sister Molly. However, the awkwardness faded when Lexi, who had become more outgoing, took Sandra's hand, and led her to meet her stuffed animals. Soon, they were having a fun tea party, and I felt sure that Sandra would fit in well. I tried to give Sandra space while also being there if she wanted to talk. Like with Molly, she quickly got close to Allison and spent more time with her than with me. It started to feel like I had 3 daughters instead of just 2. It took about 10 days for Sandra to finally tell me what had happened with Harrison. She meant to talk to him about her mistakes, but she was too frightened to do it. She kept waiting for the right moment, but it never happened, and then he had left. Eventually she discovered that he had taken a job in Chicago. It seemed like he had been preparing to leave for some time as he had begun to step back from her life. Neither his parents nor their old friends would share any information about him, and he had blocked her on social media. Once she fully understood the impact of her actions, Sandra felt deep regret. She had truly cared for Harrison, and was troubled by how much she might have hurt him. This realization made her apologize to me for keeping her mother's actions a secret for so long. I told her I had already forgiven her, but it was good to see her accepting responsibility for her choices. One evening early in her stay, she came and sat with me on the back porch. We listened to the ocean and watched the stars in the sky. I had been trying to draw Hallie, my first picture of her. I was struggling more than I wanted to admit. I could see her clearly in my mind, but it didn't come out right on paper. So I put down my sketchbook and sat quietly with Sandra. After a while she began to speak. "Daddy, I really need some advice. I made a big mistake. I lost Harrison. I lost my friends. I even tried to push you away. What should I do now?" That was a good question. It was a positive sign that Sandra was taking responsibility for her actions, not blaming Harrison for leaving. I wished I had an easy answer for her, but I knew life isn't that simple. After thinking for a moment, I shared my thoughts with her. "I think it depends on what you want for your future. Do you think Harrison is to blame for what happened? Or do you believe you should take responsibility for what you did? Taking responsibility is not easy, but it looks like you are trying, and I am proud of you for that. You need to keep working at it. You cannot ignore your actions or shift the blame onto someone else. You cannot lessen the pain you caused to someone you cared for who cared for you deeply. If you take responsibility, you can change and grow. You can learn from what has happened and do better next time. When you meet someone you like again, you will have a better chance of building a strong relationship. I miss him so much, Daddy. I just want him back. I want him to be happy. I want us to be happy." "I know, sweetheart. If it helps, I am sure he misses you too. He may be dealing with his feelings now, but soon he may feel even sadder than you do. It has been over a year, and I still think about your mother every day. Even though we are not together anymore, she is still part of me, and that will never change." "Then why don't you give her another chance, Daddy? Mommy misses you too. She is not with anyone else, and she seems sad all the time. Relationships are built on more than just love, sweetie. Love is important, but it is not everything. Trust and respect matter too. Trust has to be earned day by day. It is like a rope, and you make it stronger by adding new strands. If that trust is broken, it can be hard to fix. You just have to start over each day making a new rope, one strand at a time. Respect is just as important, and it has to go both ways. You need to feel that your partner respects you as much as you respect them. I still care for your mother, but it hurt me when she did not respect me, when she chose to hide her feelings instead of being honest. So while I love your mother, I find it hard to trust and respect her now. I'm sorry, Daddy. I am too, sweetheart. I am too. I think she was confused when she said she didn't love you. Maybe she just did not understand what love really is. A week later, Sandra was still feeling pretty low. She put on a brave face and seemed happy when playing with Lexi and Sebastian. But during quiet times, she seemed to feel down. Allison noticed this and suggested I take Sandra out for a night to cheer her up. She even found an event she thought would be perfect for us, a performance of the Nutcracker Ballet at the Gaylord Center. I asked Allison if she and Lexi wanted to join us, but she said no, thinking Sandra and I needed some time alone to reconnect. I thought Sandra would be excited to see the Nutcracker since she had loved ballet when she was younger. Instead, my invitation caused a little trouble. She seemed worried about what to wear and how her hair looked. Luckily, everything got better with a fun day out for Justine and Allison while Jim, Sebastian and I took care of Lexi. The girls came home happy, laughing and talking, and Sandra looked completely different. Her hair was cut shorter and was a lighter color than before. The biggest change was the smile on her face. The sadness she had felt since she arrived was gone. On the night of the ballet, we had an early dinner at the Peninsula Grill. Sandra and I talked about how strange it felt to be outside in early December without winter clothes. The evening was unusually warm, and we didn't even need jackets. It felt great to dress up and go out, and Sandra looked lovely in her new dress and shoes. The dinner was delicious, especially the famous coconut cake. It took us 10 minutes to walk to the Gaillard Center, and Sandra linked her arm in mine just like she had when she was little. Thank you for this, Daddy. You probably think I made some bad choices with Harrison and Braden. I promise I've learned from them. If I find someone like Harrison again, I won't make the same mistakes. And Braden, well, I'm ready to leave that behind. I never thought less of you, sweetheart, even when you were with Braden. I felt sad and hurt. Sometimes as a parent, you have to believe that you've raised your children well, and trust they will find their way back. With Harrison, we all make choices we wish we could change, but those choices don't have to define us. I can see you are a different person than the one who left Boise not long ago. We arrived at the Gaillard Center and found our seats on the floor. I had managed to get VIP tickets, the only seats available at the last minute, which included a special reception during the break. Sandra was captivated by the performance and chatted excitedly as we went to get our drinks during intermission. As we entered the VIP room and approached the bartender, I noticed an elegant woman with a tall and handsome companion. I wasn't used to seeing Hallie dressed up, but I knew it was her. The man with her was easily 6'3" and wore a classic black tuxedo. With his looks, he could have been a model. I wished for a moment that he was just a friend, but as we got closer, I noticed his arm around her in a protective way. I instinctively started to pull away, which made Sandra turn toward me with a questioning look. At the same time, Hallie laughed at something her date said, and our eyes met across the room. For a brief moment, I saw a flash of pain or sadness on her face before she returned to her smile. With a deep breath, I walked towards the bar ready for what was ahead. "Richard, I didn't expect to see you here. I didn't know you enjoyed the ballet," she said with a smile that didn't seem genuine. "I guess I never mentioned it," I replied. "But how well do we really know the people we care about? By the way, Hallie, this is my daughter Sandra, visiting from Boise." "Nice to meet you, Sandra," Hallie said, turning to her. "And this is an old friend of mine, Gerald, who is visiting from out of town." Gerald gave us a confident smile as he shook my hand. He then took Sandra's hand, looking at her intently. Sandra seemed surprised, but quickly hid it. "Well, that's a warm welcome for a girl from Boise," she said, gently pulling her hand away. "Hallie, be careful with that one. Nice to meet both of you. Enjoy the rest of the show." Sandra led me away, but I felt a pull on my jacket sleeve as we turned to leave. "Richard, I will call you," Hallie said, a hint of uncertainty in her voice. "Enjoy your evening, Hallie," was all I managed to say. Once at the bar, Sandra looked at me with concern. "That was Hallie, your friend?" "That was Hallie, my friend. Let's get our drinks," I interrupted. Although I tried to act calm, my thoughts raced. It happened again. Why am I not enough? What am I missing? Sandra noticed my tension and squeezed my hand tightly. I kept it together pretty well on the ride home, though we didn't talk much. I sent Sandra to bed with a gentle gesture before heading to my room. I closed the door and finally let my feelings out. Later, I heard scratching at my door. I opened it to find Sebastian looking up at me worried. Since that first night in the van, he had stayed close to Lexi, often near her crib or her new bed. Tonight, he curled up beside me, nuzzling until I drifted off to sleep. By the end of 2022, things were starting to feel normal again, or at least a new kind of normal. Allison was doing well in pre-med at the College of Charleston, and Lexi was thriving in junior kindergarten. JMS Imaging had just launched its first product as the AI trend was gaining speed, with several big companies showing interest in a possible buyout. We were talking about a company value over $200 million, and I felt we could do even better once our product picked up momentum. For the first time in years, I was beginning to feel a sense of purpose and belonging. I enjoyed my work and felt surrounded by friends and family. I was working on a new sketchbook filled with drawings of Lexi as she grew along with Sebastian and other important people in my life. There was even a drawing of Sandra enjoying tea with Princess Lexi and Sebastian. Sandra had chosen to stay with us in Charleston for a while, and we finally decided that it was time to find our own place. Luckily, we didn't have to move far. A good friend of Justine's, who lived just up the street, was selling her house because she was moving to a retirement community. We bought her house, which was only 5 doors down from Jim and Justine before it was even officially listed, and moved in late 2021. To our surprise, Sandra started working at Lexi's preschool. This was a big change from her degree in fashion design, but her experiences seemed to humble her. She was great with the kids. She made new friends and spent lots of time with Allison, moving past her old social habits. Jim and Justine's son, Ken, came home a week before Christmas for the first time since we arrived in Charleston. He was an officer who had trained with the Army Special Forces and later transferred to the Intelligence and Security Command. He couldn't share much about his job, other than he had just finished a top-secret 18-month assignment and wanted to spend most of his leave with his family. Jim and Justine's daughters were planning to spend Christmas with their in-laws and then return for New Year's to celebrate Ken's homecoming. On the day Ken arrived, Sandra had agreed to drop Lexi off with Justine after preschool. When she got there, she let herself in and called out a quick greeting, expecting to find Justine or Jim waiting for them. Instead, she saw a young man with strong features, striking gray eyes, and a confident presence. Justine later described the moment to us with a smile. I heard the front door open and Sandra say hello, so I rushed in from the kitchen. It was great to have Ken back after so long, but I wasn't ready for Lexi. I entered the foyer and saw those two standing there, both looking a little unsure. Sandra's cheeks were red, and Ken looked surprised. Lexi was holding Sandra's hand, glancing back and forth between them. I quickly took off my apron and went to the foyer saying, "Sandra, let me introduce you to our youngest. This is Ken. He just got back and will be with us for the holidays." Poor Sandra was left speechless. "And Ken, this is Sandra, the daughter of our good friend Richard, who stayed with us for the past year along with Allison and little Lexi here." Ken looked a bit surprised. I stood there for a moment, then smiled and took Lexi by the hand. "Okay, Princess Lexi. I think you and I should go to the kitchen and finish making the cookies while these two introduce themselves properly." Lexi looked up at them and said, "Nani, I think they like each other." With a chuckle, I replied, "I think they do too, Princess. Now let's give them a moment." Over the next week, Ken and Sandra formed a close bond. Even though he was fit and smart, Ken was rather shy. It was Sandra who eventually took the lead and invited him out for some holiday shopping. They returned together, clearly enjoying each other's company. Before their third outing, Sandra sat Ken down and shared her background, talking about her past relationship and the choices she made. She honestly described her mistakes and how sorry she felt for how they affected others. She told Ken how much she liked him, but that she would understand if he didn't want to be with her because of her past. After a few moments of thinking, Ken asked her if she thought she might ever make the same mistakes again, and she expressed her hope that she wouldn't. However, she admitted that since she had faced this situation before, she couldn't promise it wouldn't happen again. She promised to be careful, to love and respect him, and to work on earning his trust every day. I understood Ken's worries. As a military officer, he would be away for deployments, and he needed to be sure that Sandra would stay faithful during those times. Though I never found out how their talk finished, It must have gone well as Ken gathered the courage to ask Sandra to be his girlfriend on New Year's Eve, leading to their first kiss at midnight. After sharing good wishes with everyone, Sandra pulled Ken aside, and I imagined they might have had some special moments together, though I preferred not to think too much about that since she was still my daughter. By the time Ken finished his time off in January, he and Sandra had become quite close. Over the next year, they drove the 7 hours from Charleston to Fort Belvoir, Virginia, where Ken was stationed, more times than I could count. During Thanksgiving the following year, Ken came to me and asked for my blessing to propose to Sandra. I fully supported him, confident that Sandra would be happy to say yes. He mentioned he planned to propose on New Year's Eve to mark the anniversary of their first kiss. Knowing how important this moment was for our family, I decided to invite Kelly to celebrate New Year's with us. I told her we had enough room, and the girls would be happy to see her, so it'd be nice if she came to join us. After some convincing, she agreed, and her happiness showed when Ken proposed and Sandra excitedly said yes. Having Kelly stay at our home was surprisingly nice. She met Allison, loved spending time with Lexi, and enjoyed being around Sebastian, who was getting older but still welcomed her with wagging joy. We even shared a warm hug at midnight on New Year's Eve. Maybe it was the celebration and the joy of our eldest getting engaged, but it felt great to have Kelly back in my life, even a little. As 2022 moved on, I felt like I was not only getting back on my feet, but also starting to see where my life was going. I hadn't been dating much since my time with Hallie had ended, but that was okay with me. Hallie and I had talked briefly after a concert. Maybe if she had reached out that night or the next day we could have kept things going. But with a whole week to think before she called, I came to see that I wanted someone who would truly commit to being with me for the long haul, someone to share my life with, not just moments. Hallie was quite bold during our talk. She explained that we had never agreed to be exclusive, and that she was perfectly free to spend time with Gerald. I was surprised when I agreed with her, but I still decided to end our relationship. She was taken aback and wanted to know why. When I told her, she didn't like it and started to get upset before I hung up. A couple of days later, Hallie came to our house and asked to talk. I wasn't really in the mood, but I agreed to walk with her by the beach. Hallie began again, insisting she hadn't done anything wrong and that I was being unfair for breaking up with her. Despite my doubts, I tried to share why I had made that choice. Hallie, I understand your point. If you ask someone who knows the unwritten rules of dating, they might say you did nothing wrong, but you didn't fully explain why you were unavailable for weeks and chose to spend time with Gerald instead of with me and my daughter. Those decisions say a lot about us and our priorities. You knew how I felt about you. I was open about it. You were aware that if I found out why you were unavailable, it would hurt me, but you chose to keep it from me. I could see it in your eyes. I was honest with you from the start. I told you I wasn't looking to marry. That's true, but not wanting to marry is different from not being able to love. Look, I'm not angry with you. Do what makes you happy. Gerald is a good guy. Enjoy your time with him. But I am too old to chase after your love like a schoolboy, and I have too much self-respect to just stand aside when someone else comes along. I really appreciate everything you've done. This situation has made me realize I want to love again. I was getting close to that with you. So seeing you with Gerald hurt, but that pain is mine, not yours. I would rather feel the pain of loving someone who's with another man than feel nothing at all. But I won't give up my happiness for others anymore. Not even for you. Maybe I would have chosen differently if I had known how you felt. We could have talked about it. I would have shared my feelings. A wise friend once said that good relationships need good communication, and I guess that's where we did not succeed. There wasn't much more to say after that, so I focused on being a single dad and a father figure, which was often enough for me. It's strange how parts of our lives we think we've moved on from can resurface, bringing us back to our past. It was late spring when my phone rang on a Sunday night. I was surprised to see it was Kelly since we hadn't talked since the day after New Year's when she went back to Boise. I felt a rush of concern, afraid something was wrong with Molly. Kelly, what's going on? Is everything okay with you and Molly? After a long pause, I finally heard Kelly's voice, and she sounded tired. Richard, we need to talk. I don't even know where to start, so I'll get straight to the point. I need you to come back to Boise to be the CEO of Carlson Industries. I was stunned, holding my phone in disbelief. What do you mean, come back as CEO? I thought your brother was in that role now. My brother has been gone for more than a year. I am the current CEO of Carlson Industries. I've been trying to keep the company afloat, but it's not enough. If I can't improve things by the end of summer, the family trust will sell parts of the company, and then we might have to declare bankruptcy. Everyone at the company could lose their jobs. Even worse, the pension fund is in trouble, meaning former employees could lose their pensions too. I have so many questions. What happened to your brother? Where is your dad? How did you become CEO? How did the company end up in this situation? What do you think I can do to help? Those are all important questions that need thorough answers. To start, my brother left the country almost 2 years ago after taking nearly $30 million from the company. When he was CEO, he replaced the chief financial officer with a director from his former team who was also his girlfriend. Working together, they took nearly $10 million from pandemic relief funds and $20 million from the pension fund, before fleeing to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They have been accused of fraud, but they are gone along with the money. My dad came out of retirement and tried to hide what they did by turning the theft into bonus payments. Our board has never been very strict with its rules, but even they couldn't ignore this. My father was removed from his job because of the morals clause in our family trust. You know how my dad gets angry. When things went wrong, he lost control. He had a small health scare and now refuses to leave the family estate. He blames you for all the problems at the company and in our family. He thinks that if you were more grateful, none of this would be happening. So I ended up taking the CEO position. I've tried my best, Richard. I really have. I know how much the people at this company mean to you, and I have worked hard to protect their jobs and pensions, but it seems like it won't be enough. There was no way to get back the money that Eric and his accomplice took, especially since things were tough after the pandemic. Last week, my father came back and called a meeting of the trustees of our family trust. Because of the morals clause, there are only 2 trustees, now my father and me. My brother lost his role as a trustee when he faced several charges, and Sandra can't become a trustee until her 20th birthday at the August. My father showed up at this meeting with Braden Jameson. Their plan is to sell the company assets to Braden's family at a lower price without any responsibilities like pensions or seniority, and then have Carlson Industries go bankrupt. The Jameson family would gain a lot for less money, while our trust would get just enough to pay off its debts, allowing my father to live the rest of his life without facing the damage done to our family name. I have fought hard against my father to keep our company from going under, but I am losing, Richard. I may have already lost. Without more funds and agreements to delay payments to our suppliers and creditors, Carlson Industries could be bankrupt by the September, no matter what we do. What you said during our last argument really stuck with me. My family and I owe so much to the generations of families who built this company for us. I have tried to honor that legacy, but our creditors and suppliers don't know me and don't trust me. They would rather push us into bankruptcy now than wait to see if we can recover later. I will always regret how I treated you, Richard. I was upset with my family, and I unfairly took it out on you. You didn't deserve any of it, but I am not asking you to return for me. I want you to come back to help protect our community. The families that depend on us, your friends. She paused to catch her breath while I considered everything she had shared. Doesn't your father still have the final say with the trust? If I remember correctly, the oldest family member breaks any ties on important decisions, right? Legally, it's unclear whether it's the oldest family member or the CEO of the company who has the final say. For the whole history of the trust, the same people have managed it, making the current situation quite different. That is why Braden and my father are waiting for Sandra to get older, instead of acting now. They think she will support them to solve the tie. I think they might be surprised to find that Sandra has changed since she left Boise. I hope you're right. But Braden is likely to tempt her with a lot of money from his company, to gain her support. Being his daughter means she might inherit some of that wealth, giving her good reasons to back the sale. As I took all this in, my mind raced with what Kelly had just revealed. So you're saying that Carlson Industries desperately needs money to avoid going bankrupt. But anyone who invests in the company risks losing their money quickly if the trust decides to sell the company's assets. If things improve, the value of those assets will increase, helping Braden when he can buy them for much less than they're worth. In the end, the only safety for anyone who reinvests in the company relies on Sandra being willing to give up guaranteed money now for a future that might still fail and lead to bankruptcy again. There was a long pause as Kelly took her time to think before answering. When she finally spoke, her voice sounded heavy with disappointment. I guess that is true, Richard. I realize I'm asking you to take on a hard task. I know I can't demand anything from you, but it's the only idea I have that might save the company. Why do you think things would be different if I were CEO? Well, for a few reasons. First, you are still respected by our suppliers and lenders. Companies that are hesitant to negotiate with me or anyone tied to the Carlson name might find it easier to work with you. People trust you, Richard, because they know you are honest and clear. Sadly, my father and brother have damaged the trust that our family name once had. Second, you are very smart and know a lot about how the company works. Since I became the CEO, it's clear that you have played a crucial role in keeping our company going for many years. My brother has been a burden for us, while my father was distracted with other things. You are the one who can help us find a solution. Also, I realize this is a lot to ask, but you have access to the funds from the intellectual property that our company created. I know they are legally yours. My brother was wrong to try and reclaim that from you, and my father shouldn't have rejected your ideas to make use of it in the first place. I see that now. However, Carlson Industries really needs an influx of money, and that might be our best chance. I understand it is a big request, but could you consider supporting us? That's a significant request indeed, Callie. I can't say yes or no until I speak with a few people and gather more details from you. Just know that my life is here in Charleston now. Even if I agree, I will only come back long enough to help the company become stable, but no longer than that. That sounds reasonable, Richard. I can't ask for more than that, but please decide as quickly as you can. I'm not sure how long I can manage our creditors. Before I hung up, I had one last question for Kelly. How much of the $5 million from our divorce have you already used to keep the company going? There was a long silence before Kelly spoke softly. All of it. I spoke to fewer people than I expected before making my choice. Allison was supportive of whatever I decided. She even offered to move to Boise with Lexi for the summer so she could spend time with Molly, who had just graduated, and see where I grew up. She would need to return to Charleston in the fall for school, but other than that, she had no other plans. Sandra was also encouraging. She understood when I explained that the decision regarding the company would fall on her 20th birthday. She asked me what I thought she should do. I can't tell you what to do, Sandra. On one hand, you have the chance for strong financial security. If you invest your money wisely from Braden, you might never have to work again, and your biological father would profit even more, which could benefit you in the future. On the other hand, there's a lot of uncertainty. With your help, we might save Carlson Industries and safeguard the jobs and benefits of many people, but we might not succeed. And even if we do, the company might not be profitable again. You could lose everything. Your father and grandfather might say that this decision is easy. They may believe you should choose what helps you the most. Maybe they are right, but I know there is more to life than just money. I think Ken could earn a lot more if he left the army and worked for a private company, but he chooses to be part of something bigger and more important than himself. Personally, I would rather be like Ken than Braden, but this isn't my choice to make. This is a big choice. I suggest you talk with Ken when he is home for his summer break. He is wise. And even though this is your decision, it's good to make such choices together. Listen to what he has to say. I want you to know that I will love you no matter what you decide. I'm not sure if Braden feels the same way, but I hope he does. I believe in you. You have grown into a smart, kind, and caring young woman, and I know you will make the right choice. What will you do, Daddy? Are you going to help Mommy? I'm not sure yet, but I am thinking about it. What kind of person would I be if I didn't do everything I could to help those who supported me in my younger years? Sandra came over and gave me a big hug. You can do this, Dad. I hope she was right. Later that evening I called Molly. From her last messages I knew she was in Vancouver staying with Jennifer and Marie-Sophie. Over the past 4 years, they had become close and often visited each other. So I was surprised when Molly told me she planned to work for them after she graduated. Looking back, it made sense since she graduated at the top of her class with a double major in business and marketing. Hey Dad, what's happening in Charleston? I guess I'm shaking things up here, but I might head back to Boise for a bit. I took a moment to explain what Kelly had asked me to do. Well, you are the best person for this. If anyone can save that company, it's you. Part of my reason is to protect your and Sandra's future. Since your uncle has left, you too will inherit the family trust one day. It would be nice if there was something left for you when that time comes. There was a brief silence as Molly sat quietly. She seemed to be thinking hard about something before she spoke up. Dad, I don't think I will benefit from that trust for much longer. What do you mean, Pumpkin? It's a strong agreement, so there isn't much they can do to get rid of you even if they wanted to. At my words, Molly reached out to someone off screen. The person entered the call and sat down next to her. She was a tall girl, maybe a year or two older than Molly, with light brown hair pulled back in a messy bun and trendy glasses. "Daddy, this is Chantel. She is the reason I moved to Vancouver and took a job with JMS Imaging. I wanted to tell you in person, but things have been happening fast so we haven't had much time." Chantel was the first person Jennifer and Marie-Sophie hired, and she is really smart when it comes to machine learning for our product. "Hello, Mr. Gage? It's nice to meet you," Chantel said, her voice having a slight accent. I guessed she was French-Canadian like Marie-Sophie, but I wasn't sure. "Nice to meet you too, even if it's just online, Chantel. Please call me Richard." Both Chantel and Molly seemed a bit nervous, and I wanted to reach through the screen to comfort them. "How long have you two known each other?" "Well, we've been friends for 4 years, but Chantel had a long-term boyfriend when we first met. I got to know her while visiting Jennifer and Marie-Sophie. They broke up before last Christmas, and I visited in January after Ken and Sandra got engaged. We've been together ever since." Molly paused for a moment and then looked at Chantel. "I love her, Daddy." When she said this, I noticed Chantel hold her hand tightly. They both looked at me with a mix of worry and determination. "I hope you do love her." "You moved to a whole other country for her," I joked with a smile. "I'm serious, Daddy. I love her and I will be with her, even if it means giving up my share of the Carlson family trust." "What do you mean, Pumpkin? Why would you give that up?" "You know how Grandpa is, Daddy. He has never been very supportive. Somehow he found out about me and Chantel. He sent me a letter saying I have a month to think it over and come back to Boise, or he will cut me off from the trust." "That's unfortunate. Don't worry about it, Pumpkin. You don't need that money. We don't need that money. I don't know what your salary is. But if you need anything, just ask. We're okay, Daddy. Chantel is likely to do very well when the JMS Imaging deal goes through, and I will be fine too." After sharing her news, Molly encouraged me to help Kelly. "Mom is really different since you left. She is kinder, but also sadder. The end of your marriage seems to have brought out a side of her that was hidden for a long time. It's a bit surprising to see. She has worked really hard to keep the company going since my uncle mishandled the funds and left. However, she lacks the experience and support to make things better. I know you could help her, Dad, if you're open to it. Chantel and I could visit you in Boise. I would love for Chantel to meet Allison and Lexi too if they join you." "You sound like I've already decided." "That's because I know you, Dad. You might pretend to think it over with others, but even after the divorce, I believe you'd do anything for Mom if she asked." Molly understood me well, but I needed to talk to one more person before I made a choice. My last call was to Julio Rodriguez, my oldest friend and business partner. He was my right-hand man when I led Carlson Electric, and he left right after I did, taking many of the best teams with him. I helped him start his own company, which has now grown to nearly 100 employees, many of whom have a share in it. For the next hour, I explained Kelly's request and the tough financial situation at Carlson Industries. Truthfully, our company would benefit greatly if Carlson Industries struggled, making many of their good contracts available. I'm considering going back to see if I can fix the company. Too many of our old friends depend on their Carlson pensions for retirement, but this will only work if we merge with Carlson Electric. It's the only way to make it strong enough to survive. I won't go back to working for them, Richard. You encouraged me to start on my own, and I have to say, I enjoy being my own boss. Why would I return? Why should we give up what we've built? I would only agree to a merger if the Carlson family gave up their control of the company. I have a plan where employees could buy a big part of the company shares. With the merger, we could own more than 10% of Carlson Industries, and our employees could own another 10%. I might also bring some parts of my IP portfolio from RG Innovations back in to increase my share. In total, between you, me, and the other employees, we could own about 2/3 of the company. Why would we do this? That's a question you need to think about for yourself. But for me, there are 3 reasons. First, this is a great chance for you and your team. You would speed up your growth plans by 10 years and quickly expand. Second, many of our friends and their families depend on Carlson Industries for work in their future. If we don't act, what will happen to them? If we don't try to help the company, how can we look them in the eyes when we see them? And third, once the deal is completed and the new ownership is set, someone will need to lead the new company. Current and past employees won't accept a Carlson as CEO. When the new board is formed, they will need someone experienced who knows the team and the business well. That sounds like you, Julio said. No, Julio, that sounds like you. You should be the CEO who takes Carlson Industries forward. Do I need to answer right now? No. I just want to know if you're willing to think about my offer. Of course, Richard. You don't have to worry. I hope you won't be too let down if I say no. I called Kelly back and told her I was in. I would fly out the next morning, and Allison and Lexi would come later with Sebastian in the van. Over the past 6 months, Sebastian had really started to slow down. He was asking for shorter walks, and even his usual cheerfulness had faded a bit. However, he was still very protective of Lexi, just like at the start. I had planned to take him to the vet before I left, but I thought it could wait until they joined me in Boise since he didn't seem to be in pain. I hoped it was just a sign of getting older and not something serious, and that he would be with us for many more years. Justine wanted to travel with Allison and Lexi just in case anything happened. We all knew she would miss Lexi a lot during the summer, and the road trip was her chance to spend as much time with her as possible. For the first few weeks, I would be busy with financial and organizational reports, so we told them to take their time. I was pretty sure Justine had planned stops at every zoo and dinosaur museum between Charleston and Boise for them to visit along the way. Before I left, I had a long chat with Jim. Much to Justine's annoyance, he was putting a lot of time into the deal for JMS imaging with one of the big technology companies. The longer the deal took and the more success they had in the market, the higher the final price went. So both sides were motivated to move quickly. That said, there was no one I would trust more than Jim to help me figure out if Carlson Industries could still be saved. The day after Kelly called, I walked over to Jim and Justine's house after dinner. We talked on the porch until it was dark. As always, Jim asked deep questions that got right to the point. Can you trust your ex-wife? You know that what she is suggesting will not only help Sandra, but also benefit her too. Are you sure she won't just leave after making a lot of money? I know that's a risk, but I believe she cares about the girls. If she disappointed them again, they wouldn't forgive her. That's fair. Next, do you want to stay connected with your ex-wife and her family for a long time? From what you've said, if you want this to work, you will need to invest a lot into Carlson Industries. This means dealing with your difficult father-in-law and ex-wife for as long as you're involved. I've thought about that too. If I go through with this and we're successful, I plan to pass my shares to the girls and the employees. Once JMS Imaging sells, I won't really need the money. Having more money when I die isn't what matters to me. The biggest question then is whether you really want to do this. You owe nothing to anyone right now. You have a life in Charleston now. Will trying to fix a situation you didn't create bring you fulfillment? I think I do want to do this, Jim. I left without fully resolving things, and it was my old team and the company that suffered. I want to make it right. Will it make me happy? I'm not sure, but not everything in life has to bring joy. It just needs to feel meaningful. Looks like that's decided then. How quickly can you gather the financial documents and details? I need to see the debt and cash flow records for each division along with contracts and agreements. I'll also need recent performance reviews and risk assessments. Jim, I appreciate your help, but I can't ask you to do this right now, especially not with a JMS imaging deal. You're not asking, Richard. I'm offering. Let's be honest. You will need my help if you want any chance of making this work. So I found myself flying into Boise Airport for the second time since I left almost 3 years ago. The last time I was here to see my mother before she passed, I felt a lot of anxiety. This time, I felt much calmer. Looking out the window, Boise, which had been such an important part of my life, now felt small and charming. It took me just a few minutes to grab my bags and find my rental car. When I booked my stay, I wasn't sure how long I would be here, but I guessed it would be at least until Sandra's birthday in late August. I could have stayed in a hotel, but I needed a place for Allison and Lexi, somewhere Jim and Justine could visit, and room for Sebastian to move around. So I rented a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house near Julio and his family for 3 months, with the option to stay longer if needed. On my way to my temporary home, I stopped for some takeout Thai food and picked up basic groceries and drinks. It would be pretty quiet until Allison, Lexi, and Justine arrived in a couple of weeks, although Jim would join me later this week. When Julio found out I was in town, he showed up at my place with a big smile and a warm greeting. "Hey brother, welcome home," he said as he stepped into my house. We chatted for a while about family and friends, and I told him about Allison and Lexi, mentioning that they would be here in about 10 days. You should bring them over for a barbecue once they arrive. My youngest just turned 6, and she is full of energy. I bet she would love to meet Lexi. And you know Rodrigo? He is still the favorite with the kids here. He'll have Lexi playing with the others in no time. Julio's oldest son, Rodrigo, was a bit of a mix. At work he was Julio's most trusted and hard-working team leader. He made sure people knew he earned his spot through effort, always being the first to arrive and the last to leave. In high school he played on a championship football team, but off the field, he was quiet and polite. Despite his tall, strong build, he loved kids, and they adored him too. At family get-togethers, when the adults would tell the kids to play outside, Rodrigo would usually go with them. Once we caught up, Julio took 2 glasses and a drink from the kitchen and headed to the backyard. He listened carefully as I updated him on the latest news with Carlson Industries. "And how much time do you have to get this all done?" he asked. "The decision will be made at the August on Sandra's 25th birthday, and she will have the final vote. Don't take this the wrong way, but I don't remember her being very thoughtful, more like someone who just wants to have fun. She has changed a lot over the years. She is engaged to a good man, and she has really changed her life for the better. I believe she will make good choices. I really hope you're right because we are counting on her." Once I returned to Boise, it was easy to slip back into my old routines. The day after I got back, I woke up early, made coffee and toast, and left for work before 7 a.m. I had my first surprise of the day before I even reached my office. My former assistant Sheila, who had retired after I left, was sitting at a desk waiting for me. I was so surprised that I must have looked shocked when she shook her head at me. "You didn't think I would leave you to manage this place alone, did you? Your office is all set up the way you like, and Kelly is in there waiting for you." I was taken aback that Sheila had allowed Kelly into my office without me. Almost as surprised as I was to see Kelly here so early, Kelly looked different from the last time I saw her. She seemed older, probably from the stress of leading a company in trouble, but she also looked calmer and, oddly enough, at peace. She stood up when I walked in. "Richard, thank you for coming back. I hope it's okay that I contacted Sheila. I thought it would be nice for you to see a familiar face as you settle in." She paused, her eyes meeting mine. She took a couple of quick breaths before continuing. "I have the papers ready to officially transfer the Chief Executive Officer position to you. The board has already approved it, it just needs your signature. After that I will leave you alone to focus on your work. I don't want to distract you." "Kelly, stop," I said gently, asking her to pause. "I'm not signing those papers. I don't want to be the CEO of Carlson Industries." "But I thought that was why you came back." "You agreed to. I have gone over the financials and plans, Kelly. You are doing a great job as CEO, and I don't think I could do better, especially with the tough situation you're in. The company doesn't need a new CEO right now. Just call me and Jim when he gets here, strategic advisors or something." "Are you sure? Don't you think our creditors and suppliers would prefer you in charge?" "Maybe. But I don't think it matters much if we can show them we have a solid plan. They will have to support us. We are too important for them to ignore. And if we can't create a good plan, then we will fail anyway." In the following week I got back into the work routine. With no distractions from Allison, Lexi, or my girls, I spent long hours at the office focusing on our plan. I picked Jim up at the airport on Thursday night, and by Friday morning, he was fully engaged, making calls and meeting with our important suppliers and lenders. Kelly worked just as hard, if not harder than I did. She was determined to help the company succeed, and had the creativity and passion to make it happen. Whether she was meeting with our team or clients, I was reminded of her amazing skill as a speaker. She did as much or more than I did to lift the spirits and enthusiasm of our team. I knew it would come down to Sandra and her vote, but I felt more confident that we could save the company if given a chance. A week after Jim arrived, Allison, Lexi, and Justine came to town. Jim and I left the office early to meet them and show them around. Lexi was excited to be out of the van and started sharing stories about her adventures with Justine and her mom. She talked so fast that it was a bit hard to keep up, but I understood that their trip had a lot of animals, candy, dinosaurs, and a big red water slide. The only sad part about the reunion was Sebastian, who seemed to be moving more slowly than the last time I saw him just 2 weeks before. He was happy to see me and tried to wag his tail, but it only moved a little. Lexi didn't seem to notice and still gave him a lot of affection, but I could see worried looks on the other adults' faces. I promised myself that I would take Sebastian to the vet the next week to find out what was wrong. Before we even unpacked the van, Julio and his wife invited us over for a barbecue. When we got there, it looked like half the neighborhood was outside watching a group of kids running around Rodrigo. It was so lively that Lexi hid behind Allison's legs for a moment. But then she peeked out to see what was happening. Not 5 minutes after we arrived, Julio's youngest daughter ran over to introduce herself to Lexi. "Hi. I'm Gabriella, what's your name?" Once Lexi said her name, Gabriella took her hand and said, "Come on, we are trying to defeat the tickle monster, but don't worry, it's not real. It's just my brother Rodrigo." Lexi took her hand but hesitated as they moved toward the group of laughing children. Rodrigo saw them and with a big smile came over to tickle Lexi until she ran away giggling, especially since Gabriella jumped on her brother's back to help. As I watched the fun on the street, Allison turned to Julio and asked, "Doesn't he ever get tired?" "If he did, he would never show it to the little ones," Julio replied with a laugh. "There is nothing Rodrigo loves more than those kids. As long as they want to play, he will be out there with them." "Which ones are his?" Allison asked, trying to sound casual. However, her tone showed that she couldn't take her eyes off Rodrigo. "Oh, none of them are Rodrigo's. He says he works too hard to have a girlfriend, but his mother thinks he just hasn't met the right girl yet." Just then, Rodrigo looked over and smiled brightly when he saw Allison momentarily losing track of the kids around him. As he did, the children quickly surrounded him again. "Maybe I should stay out here for now, just until Lexi feels more comfortable," Allison suggested absent-mindedly, still watching Rodrigo. Julio looked between her and Rodrigo a few times before agreeing and offering to bring her a lawn chair and a drink. By late afternoon, fewer kids were around as the neighborhood children went home for dinner. Most of Julio's family came to the backyard to see what was being served, followed by Allison, who was amazed by the food. The smell of grilled carne asada mixed with an incredible variety of salsas, guacamole and grilled vegetables filled the air. She was wondering where Lexi and Gabriella had gone when Rodrigo appeared around the corner carrying one girl on each shoulder. He was breathing hard and his curly black hair was damp, but he wore a big smile. It seemed the long playtime with the kids had ended with everyone tired but happy. "I have 2 little girls who need some food," he said as he brought Lexi over to her mother. "Thank you." "I hope Lexi wasn't too much trouble," Allison said, suddenly feeling shy just like her daughter. "No trouble at all. She's a great kid," Rodrigo replied with a bright smile. "Is this seat beside you open?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. Allison spent the rest of the night chatting quietly with Rodrigo. The girls quickly regained their energy after eating some food and snacks. They ran inside to watch a Disney movie together, though Allison barely noticed. Before long the evening came to an end. As they were leaving, Lexi asked her mother if she could return the next night for a sleepover with her new friend Gabriella. Seeing the opportunity, Rodrigo suggested that he could take Allison out for dinner and show her around the town when she dropped Lexi off. "I would like that a lot," Allison replied enthusiastically. The rest of her evening was filled with video calls to Molly and Sandra, who shared many ideas on what she could wear, and where to find a nice summer dress and sandals. The summer passed surprisingly fast. As Kelly, Jim and I finished the recovery plan for Carlson Industries, Lexi became a regular visitor at the Rodriguez house. Allison and Rodrigo spent a lot of time together, especially while caring for Lexi. Soon, it was already halfway through August. I was working with Kelly on a report for the board of directors when my phone rang. I usually had my phone on silent during work, so I knew it was important. When I answered, I heard Allison's voice, but she was crying so hard that I could barely understand her. Rodrigo had taken the afternoon off work. The 3 of them were out walking their dog Sebastian, in a park near the river when Sebastian suddenly fell. Rodrigo quickly carried him to his truck while Allison followed with Lexi, and they rushed him to the nearest emergency veterinary clinic. I told Allison I would be there as fast as I could. "Richard, what's wrong?" Kelly asked, noticing my worried expression. "It's Sebastian. He collapsed. I need to go." Just as I was about to leave the room, Kelly stopped me. "Richard, you shouldn't drive like this. I will take you. Let's go." I don't remember much of the drive. It felt like a blur. When we arrived at the clinic, Sebastian was already with the vet, and all we could do was wait in the lobby. Lexi was upset, and Allison held her close. Rodrigo sat beside them, providing quiet support. About an hour later, a vet technician came out to take me back to see Sebastian. The news was not good. Sebastian had a tumor affecting his spine, which caused his legs to give out. The small relief was that he wasn't in pain because he couldn't feel anything in his lower body. He was heavily sedated but tried to lift his head when I petted him. "Oh, buddy, what are we going to do without you?" His tongue hung out as he responded to my presence. "It's okay, buddy. It will be over soon. I just needed to bring Lexi and Allison in to say goodbye, and then it would be over." I walked slowly back to the lobby, seeing worry in Lexi's eyes. Allison held one of her hands while Rodrigo held the other. "I'm really sorry, but there is nothing more they can do. It's time to say goodbye." Lexi let out a loud cry at the news, but I don't want him to go. I don't want to say goodbye. I knelt down so I could look her in the eyes. Sebastian has been a great friend and a loyal companion, but he is very tired now, and it's time for him to rest. I know this is sad, but we have to do what's best for him. Our sadness comes from the love we still hold for him, a love we never got to show. Let's share that love as much as we can before we say goodbye. You don't have to go see Sebastian if you don't feel ready. It's okay if it makes you too sad. But I believe Sebastian would want to say bye to you just like you want to say bye to him. Lexi held my hand, tears flowing down her cheeks, and I guided her back to Sebastian. Allison, Rodrigo, and Kelly followed us. We approached him together, and she gently placed her hand on his head. "Hi, puppy. I'm sorry you have to leave. I will really miss you." When she spoke, Sebastian raised his head from the table and gave her a gentle lick. Lexi hugged his head tightly as she cried. After a moment, her mom carefully let her go and placed her in Rodrigo's arms. She seemed so small as he held her safely. "Rodrigo, could you take Lexi out to the lobby? I would like to say goodbye too." Rodrigo nodded and walked out quietly, holding Lexi close as she continued to weep. Once they were gone, Allison knelt beside Sebastian and rested her head against him. She spoke softly so I could hardly hear, but just before she stood up she said, "Thank you for keeping my little girl safe." After that, she squeezed my hand and went to join Lexi and Rodrigo, leaving just me and Kelly while the vet tech went to find the doctor. "Richard, do you want me to go too, or can I stay?" I struggled to find the words as the feelings I had been holding back threatened to spill over. "It's okay, Richard. I will go," Kelly said, sadness in her eyes as she turned to leave. "Please don't go. I don't want to face this alone." When Kelly heard me, she paused, then slowly walked back to stand beside me. She took my hand just as the doctor entered. "Do either of you want to say anything?" I had no idea what to say. Everything good in my life had begun with Sebastian. Losing him felt unbearable. All I could manage was a small shake of my head as Kelly knelt beside Sebastian. "Thank you for watching over Richard when I couldn't. You brought him home safely. Rest well." I gently stroked Sebastian's head as the doctor went to work. His breathing became softer and slower, and then it stopped. The morning of Sandra's 25th birthday was surprisingly normal. Considering the big decision to be made later that day, I had expected to see dark storm clouds gathering with beams of sunlight breaking through, as if nature were reflecting our inner turmoil. It was a typical late August morning in Boise. I was up early making coffee when Rodrigo quietly came into the kitchen. After Sebastian passed away, Allison had stopped pretending they were just friends, and he spent most nights at our place. He had even become Lexi's favorite storyteller at bedtime, using his deep, engaging voice. He was kind and dedicated to Allison, so I didn't mind at all. "Good morning, Richard," Rodrigo said as he poured himself a cup of coffee. "Do you know how things are going to turn out today? Honestly, it could go either way. We are asking Sandra to make a big choice to put aside a lot of money for the uncertain future of Carlson Industries. A few years ago I would have thought she would take the money and run. But now, I'm hoping she will make the right decision. It would make me feel better if Ken was here to support her, but he couldn't get off work, so she will be deciding on her own. I hope things work out for you." "What you're trying to do is really good," Rodrigo said. "You're a great guy." Later that morning, Sandra, Kelly, and I met for an early lunch to celebrate Sandra's birthday. What should have been a happy occasion felt much more serious, and the conversation kept going back to the meeting with the trustees. "So Braden made a new offer last night," Sandra said without much introduction. "He is now offering me $10 million plus a share in his company if I agree to their proposal. Grandpa also called me to stress how important it is for our family's legacy that I accept this deal." "That's a lot of money," I told her. This new offer didn't surprise me. I had expected Braden to keep increasing his offer right until the meeting later in the afternoon. "Do you have any last questions for us?" I asked. "If I vote with Mommy, do you really think the company will survive long term? Will I just be wasting the money Braden is offering?" "It's hard to say. I believe we have created a solid business plan, but it will be up to the new board of directors to choose someone to lead it. Like any business, its future depends a lot on who is in charge. If you decide to vote with your mom, you might miss some chances, at least in the short term. What we are proposing aims to protect people's jobs and pensions, but that comes with costs. Even with a good plan, running a company that has big pension responsibilities and experienced employees can be tough. However, we will have a motivated team that might help us succeed in the future. What do you think, Mommy? You're also missing some potential benefits. If you change your vote and support Grandpa, you will share access to the trust with me. Are you sure you want to risk that for people you don't even know? Sandra, I regret holding on to anger for too long. I know it's late in the game, but if Carlson Industries faces tough times, we will do what is right and stand by the people who matter. I want you to know that I will love you no matter what choice you make in the meeting. We love you and trust you, I said, taking her hand and giving it a gentle squeeze. I wanted to give you something special to mark this important moment in your life, I told Sandra as I handed her a gift wrapped in red paper. Something that shows the love I have felt for you from the very first moment I saw you, and the pride I have in who you are now. Sandra took her time unwrapping the gift. Inside was a simple picture frame with a collage of 4 drawings. The first was of Sandra as a baby wrapped in a blanket in Kelly's arms. I had tried to capture the look of love in Kelly's eyes as she held her baby girl. The second was a sketch of Kelly on her first day of school, with her hair in a ponytail shining with confidence and excitement. The third was a drawing I had made of Sandra at her high school graduation. She still had that beautiful smile, though a hint of distance was starting to show in her eyes. The last drawing was of her face on the night Ken proposed. Her smile was bright, filled with happiness. They're beautiful, Daddy. Thank you. You're welcome, sweetie. Happy 20th birthday. I wish Ken could be here to celebrate with you too. He says he has something special planned for me on his next leave. It's a secret, but I don't think he can keep it from me for long. For someone whose job is to keep secrets, he really isn't good at hiding things. After lunch, we went to the law firm that took care of the Carlson Family Trust. It was the oldest and most respected firm in Boise, located in a grand century-old building with a classic granite and sandstone front. The entrance had polished wood and brass with a soft carpet that absorbed the sound of our footsteps as we walked in. Kelly's father and Braden had arrived early and were waiting in a smaller conference room to make their final case to Sandra. Even though she didn't have to meet with them before the trustees' meeting, I thought it was important for her to hear both sides. Before she entered the room, she turned to me and gave me a shy smile. Thank you for everything, Daddy. I love you. I love you too, sweetie, and I trust that you will make the right choice. After Sandra went inside and closed the door, Kelly and I were left standing alone in the long hallway. We looked at each other, feeling a bit shy, and then both started to speak at the same time. I chuckled and told her to go ahead. Richard, you have done a lot to help me, more than I could have ever asked for. You've given us a chance to build a future for Carlson Industries and support our people. I understand that you did this without expecting anything in return. If there is ever anything you need, just let me know. What are you planning to do next, Kelly? If Sandra goes with our plan, your family trust will lose control of the company. The new shareholders will want to pick an independent board of directors and a new CEO. Will you consider applying for that position? I've thought about it, Richard, but I don't think I will. If they want my advice, I'll suggest they look at Julio for the job. He knows the company well and has the team's respect, which is important for making tough choices as they try to turn things around. With the new ownership, I doubt the workers would accept a Carlson as CEO again. My father and brother made sure of that. So what will you do? I honestly don't know. It seems Sandra will be moving to the East Coast, and I wouldn't be surprised if Molly goes with her. I was thinking maybe I should move closer to them as well. I enjoyed my time in Charleston with you and the girls, but I don't want to be in your way, so maybe I'll find a place a few hours up the coast. I haven't figured it out yet. I just know I miss you and I miss the girls so much. Just then a junior associate came into the hall and gently interrupted us. I'm sorry, ma'am, but we're about to start the meeting with the trustees. Good luck, Kelly. No matter what happens, you should be proud that you did your best for the people who rely on you. That's all anyone can ask of us, I said, giving her a reassuring smile. But try your best to manage Braden. He can be a handful. With a laugh, Kelly started for the boardroom but paused and turned back. She pulled a folded piece of sketch paper from her purse and handed it to me. I know this isn't much compared to what you do, but I wanted you to have this. She got emotional before she could finish speaking, so she quickly entered the boardroom and shut the door behind her. I glanced down at the paper in my hand and slowly opened it, unsure of what to expect. Inside, I saw a drawing of a teenage boy. He wore a worn collared shirt. His hair was messy and he looked a bit slouched. But what really caught my attention were his eyes. They seemed to look right out from the page at something unseen. Those eyes sparkled with hope and a wish for something more, filled with deep feelings. The boy's shirt had patches of red on it, and his eyes, my eyes, were a bright crystal blue. Epilogue. I never thought I would leave Boise again in my VW camper van, but here I was doing just that. This time, I was heading south and east towards Charleston, my home. Allison and Lexi chose to stay in Boise. Allison wanted to spend all her time with Rodrigo before she had to fly back for her last year of college. While there are no guarantees, I believe that Allison would apply to medical school in Boise. If she wasn't accepted, I figured Rodrigo might follow her and Lexi wherever they went, though it would be tough for him to be away from his family. Even without Allison and Lexi, I was not alone on this journey. Amadeus, our new rescue puppy, was happily lying next to me on the floor of the van, eager to start our new adventure. He was rescued from Fairbanks, Alaska, and brought to a shelter near Boise, where I met him a few weeks ago while finishing my work in town. I wasn't certain if I was ready for a new puppy after losing Sebastian, but Allison and Lexi, mostly Lexi, assured me it would be good to check it out. The rescue shelter was spacious, giving the dogs plenty of room to play. There were big fenced areas with open fields and agility courses to keep the dogs active and engaged. A staff member showed us around, and Amadeus, a mix of Alaskan Husky and Labrador, paused his play to walk over to the fence where Lexi stood. I knew right then that he would be coming home with us. It took about a week to complete the adoption, but I was correct in my feelings. In the weeks that followed, he adjusted well and quickly became part of the family. He wasn't as messy as Sebastian, but he had that same gentle understanding. You seemed sure that Sandra would make the right choice in the end. Did you know something we didn't? Oh yes. I had someone with me on the trip. I didn't want to sound too sure of myself, but Jim called me the night before the meeting to tell me that Braden had contacted Ken without letting Sandra know, to offer him $5 million if he could get Sandra to support their idea. What? Who thought that was a good plan? As far as I know, Braden made that plan by himself. He might have overheard someone at the club saying that they knew Ken and that he would do almost anything for money. Well, they clearly didn't know Ken well at all. I only met him once, but he seemed like a very straight-laced person. Exactly. It's surprising how rumors can be so off. Once Braden was done trying to sway him, Ken reported what happened to his boss and his father. Jim called me while Ken was talking with Sandra. I suspected she would not take Braden's attempts to influence her well, but I know Sandra would have done the right thing anyway. We raised good kids together. Kelly looked at me with a small smile on her face. Now, before you think too much about it, Kelly and I are not back together, and I'm not sure if we will ever be. But after our proposal passed, I realized I had started to trust Kelly again. She had worked hard even when no one was looking to try to save Carlson Industries and support the people there. She didn't have to, and it would have been easier for her not to, but she did it. That means a lot to me. As we expected, the new board voted to replace her as CEO and appointed Julio as the interim leader after a lot of discussion. I think they made a good choice, and I believe they will make it permanent within the year. So Kelly found herself without a job and without family in Boise, at least none who would still talk to her. As I finished my work, we began to talk more, and I accepted what I should have realized weeks ago. She had hurt me in some big ways, maybe even unforgivable ways, but I missed her. So I invited her to travel back with me to Charleston. Has your father calmed down enough to accept what happened, or is he still at home thinking about it? Last I heard, E2 was very upset about losing the vote to Kelly and Sandra and the decision to cut Molly out. Well, we better hope the new company structure starts making money soon, because Dad and Braden are talking about asking for a review of the decision, saying it goes against the duties of the trustees. I don't think they have a strong case, but who knows? They might find a judge willing to listen to their side. Sadly, I don't think he will ever talk to me or Sandra again, or even Molly for that matter, but I don't see that as a loss. I'm no longer scared of what he thinks. I guess he will just stay in his big house, feeling upset and complaining about things. It's too bad my brother isn't around to keep him company, but I really doubt he will come back to the U.S. Funny you should mention your brother. When I returned to the company, I called an old friend named Mr. Stevens, and asked him how hard it would be to find out what your brother and his girlfriend are up to now. It turns out he is living well in the Caribbean. He even got a sailboat. I started thinking, if I were hiding out in the Caribbean and still had links to the U.S., where would I go to handle my business? Puerto Rico seemed like a good choice, so I paid Mr. Stevens a little more to have someone put a tracker on your brother's boat, Last I heard, that boat was about a day away from U.S. waters near Puerto Rico. You don't think your brother and his girlfriend would be on that boat, do you? Kelly laughed as we drove southeast, reaching down to scratch Amadeus's ears just the way he liked. She looked more relaxed than I had seen her in years, smiling and laughing as if she hadn't in a long time. Watching her, I wondered if we would end up together again in some way before everything was done. Strange things have happened, but I wasn't sure. I just knew I still dreamed about her almost every night. Recently those dreams had started to drift towards sharing what I learned from Hallie with Kelly. If things went well, I could even send her that survey. But the bigger question for me was whether I could truly be happy with her again. I know some of you have strong feelings about that, but I keep coming back to something Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote. For every minute you are angry, you lose 60 seconds of happiness. From now on, I plan to enjoy every second of happiness I can. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next story. Good luck, take care.
After listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind, or maybe it has brought back some old memories. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories, and they connect all of us. Everyone has their own unique journey in life, and we all try to understand the world in our own way. These kinds of moments remind us that we are all human, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, and always learning something new. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it with your friends. Your thoughts and feedback are always valuable to us, as they motivate us to create even better content. Every story has its own unique angle, and our goal is to understand everyone's perspective and make our content diverse and relatable. Stories like these help us realize that life's journey is different for everyone, and by hearing other stories, we learn something new. You can also share your own stories with us. Your experiences are valuable to us as well, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave your feedback. We aim to create content that brightens your mind and gives you new ideas every time. If you've already seen this video before, your feedback is still important. With every piece of feedback, we can improve our content and bring a new perspective to our viewers. Today, what we saw was just a small part of the many stories shared on Reddit and across the world. It's a reminder of how we all try to understand life by sharing our experiences with each other. This video was only an example of how we try to connect with others through storytelling, learning about different sides of life. We hope to continue sharing such stories that help us all learn and grow together. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon. If you haven't already, please like and follow for more amazing content. Your support keeps us going, and we will strive to bring you more thought-provoking and heartwarming stories. Until next time, take care and stay curious. **